Today on CityCast DC, we're talking about the fate of the White House East Wing. And we're going to talk about whether there's ever going to be Waymo in DC and a very funny slap fight over the restaurant Millie's and one of its imitators. Plus, in a members-only fourth segment, remember the shutdown? It is still ongoing. We have updates. I'm here with Washingtonian's Andrew Bojan and my CityCast colleague Annie Reese. Today is Friday, October 24th. I'm Michael Schaefer. Here's what DC's talking about. Hey, before we start, a quick shout out to a longtime supporter of CityCast who, just like us, cares about this community and the people who call it home. Paulson and Nace is now Nace Law Group. It's got the same great team, just with a new name. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Mike.
Annie, good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, can we talk about the White House East Wing? Usually,
I guess.
Doing local DC.
There's something going on?
You don't pay attention to the White House complex, but the East Wing, formerly the East Wing, is in the process of being torn down. As people know, Trump is going to erect a massive ballroom that he says will bring the White House up to speed for executive entertainment on par with the palaces of the world. And doing this necessitated tearing down the East Wing. They say they'll rebuild it. I'm obsessed with this, not because I actually think like the sanctity of the East Wing must always and forever be preserved. But I've got sort of two thoughts, and they're contradictory. But I want you guys to adjudicate these for me. Number one, these people, the Trump administration, like not 2 months ago, were threatening to fire Jerome Powell, the head of the Fed, and potentially like send Wall Street into a tizzy because the Fed in its renovations deviated allegedly from the plans that had been sanctioned by the National Capital Planning Commission. And how dare they?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now they've like literally torn down one wing of the White House without any approval from anyone whatsoever. So the kind of like lawlessness of it, I mean, they say they don't need approval for teardowns, only for build-ups, but I feel like the two are pretty hard to disentangle. Like that's one piece of it. But another piece of it is that like nothing ever gets done anymore. You know, if we don't tear things down, we don't build things, that everything takes forever and is mired in years and years of process. So the idea that he just like went ahead and did this, I don't like the thing that they're doing, but like, it's weird to, within 1 year or within a few months, talk about a project and then see the project beginning to happen. It's usually just a much longer time frame, and something about that kind of impresses me. I don't know if that's like horrible of me or not, but what do you all think?
Well, you know, Mike, I think you could make a pretty good case that the entire ethos of this administration is destruction.
Yes.
You know, like what did we get from Doge? What did the U.S. public get from that? Those early days of this administration, which I hate to point out has only been here for a little more than 9 months. You know, then like the wholesale destruction of federal agencies, federal functions, food aid overseas, all kinds of things like that. We didn't get anywhere near the cost savings that were promised. The destruction very rarely is replaced by anything that were promised. Like Trump has floated for years the idea of killing Obamacare with like a replacement to be described later on, right, and later never arrives. And I think this is a little bit different in that there's actually a plan to replace the West Wing. But those photos are a pretty potent symbol of what he came here to do. I don't find it as exhilarating, I think, that this is going on. You know, I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, I read a story this morning about how Arlington is beginning to study its governing structure. And I think we can assume that that's going to take something like 16 years.
Arlington does not cram for those exams.
No, they're gonna really take their time on that. And so, yeah, you know, like this is going quickly, but like, you know, he also paved over the Rose Garden fairly quickly. He put up the flagpoles on the lawn very quickly. I imagine that this Arc de Triomphe that he's planning for Memorial Circle, which I know you've written about recently, like that's probably going to be up in the next year or so.
I think, well, one of the ideas going around with that one is that they will put it up as a, I mean, I think literally it has nothing to do with regulations or anything, but like doing that big work in marble or stone is not, you like can't do it that fast, but you can, and this was apparently a big thing in the 19th century, put up like temporary triumphal arches with temporary materials, and then people like it so much that you make it permanent. I guess that's the idea. But in this case, I mean, like, I wish the DuPont deck over could go this fast.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Arlington, and I remember on Columbia Pike the temporary Navy buildings that had been there since World War II, which only vanished a couple of years ago. Temporary can last a pretty long time here.
It's true. I mean, I think also the big question to me, a couple of big questions is, how is it getting paid for? Trump says that he's paying for it entirely from his own pocket and from, a small select group of donors who are invested in this. But like, is that going to be true? It's like $300 million. That's not nothing. And then also, the National Planning Commission doesn't have the plans yet. Like you were saying, Mike, like the destruction is easy. They don't have the plans. There's another fun kind of like local angle, though, that I saw, which is that the construction company, the backhoes that we saw are from a Silver Spring company. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's ACECO. So like ACECO. Anyway, their website was up earlier this week, and then they received a lot of online backlash, and it's like their website's currently under construction. So they've been getting a ton of kind of local fire online. And then I also saw an NBC4 story that kind of made me chuckle, which is that a lot of DC residents called the DC Department of Buildings to report on quote unquote illegal construction before being told that they have no jurisdiction under federal buildings, and that 1600 Pennsylvania was removed from a place that you could file a complaint.
Yeah, it's also exempt from the National Historic Preservation Act. And the National Capital Planning Commission is fully stocked with Trump appointees now. So even
not fully stocked, just to be clear.
Mostly. Majority stocked.
I think majority are Republican appointees. Some are from Congress, which, as we know, is an independent, co-equal part of the government. Not necessarily on display lately, but yes, I take your point. He is not likely to have trouble with the permission-giving bodies. But it'd be nice to ask permission anyway. I mean, it is what you're supposed to do. Like, I went to a National Capital Planning Commission meeting over the summer. It was the one when they were laying into the Fed and Jerome Powell. And they went onto a long discourse about someone needed to get approvals for putting little antenna things that are about, as big as a brick on top of the light posts on the mall to transmit cell signals. No civilian would ever notice these things. And yet this became a thing, and it required this hurdle, and there was discussions of how they looked and whether they comported with the historic look of the National Mall. So it's just to say that there is a process here, which may sometimes feel annoying and unnecessary, but if you are the president of the country, you're kind of supposed to go through the processes, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is totally nuts and wild. And like I mean, just the timeline of it, the fact that this very like image conscious administration has provided also all of this visual fodder. I mean, for any of us who have gone through the like White House Christmas tour in years past, like this is a historic place, and it's honestly, it's pretty wild.
And it is, a lot of the guardians of White House tradition have been kind of mum, which also speaks to the moment.
I'm curious about that as well. Have either of you been to the People's House that the White House Historic Association built across the street? They have a whole window that is meant to simulate walking through the East Wing and looking out on the Rose Garden. And I'd actually be really curious to hear what they think about that. I'm not sure I'm going to.
I mean, the organizations like that, I'm not speaking to them specifically, their whole ethos is, right, it's like, we're here to celebrate the wonder that is Washington or the White House or the United States, and are desperately afraid of ever weighing in on any matter of political controversy, whether it's Trump in the White House or anyone else. And so now, these things that were sort of historically outside politics have become matters of political controversy, and they're in their bailiwick. It's a weird moment.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast recently about, all of the different changes and iterations of design and decor, and also like renovations in the White House over the years. Like for years in the early days, it really was not a very nice place. And one of the most well-known, obviously, is Jackie Kennedy, doing this kind of major design and inviting cameras in and kind of making it really feel like the people's house and this place that, everyone could kind of tour and see. And there are always going to be, like in certain administrations, there have been these like major changes. But again, with Trump, this is like orders of magnitude, more extreme and different.
And I think that previous presidents who did things that were perceived as too ostentatious, too Versailles-like, did get pounded a little bit over them. So he wouldn't be the first on that score either. And this is there is this, that architecture is another thing that has acquired like American culture war charge. So they've hired a traditionalist architect to build this new ballroom. And so it's going to be very, classic, like columns and filigree and stuff like that. And this has become a thing to take a stand over, which I don't think ever, I think that question of like, do you want Corinthian columns or do you want no columns at all, didn't used to have an ideological charge, and now it does.
Well, like so many other things, so many aspects of American life are now politically charged in ways that were impossible to imagine 10 years ago. Yeah.
Just saying, though, it's nice to see construction move.
Oh my God.
Not so much destruction.
Well, when we get construction, you and I can go and look through the fence.
Well, I'm sure we'll get invites, you and me, Bojan. We can.
Top of the list.
You can be my plus one.
Mine have actually been lost in the mail recently, but
that's another question. And while we are talking about DC history, I wanted to quickly plug an event that we are going to have that's really cool. It's a piece of DC history. It's a tour of the Civil War era Fort DeRussy up in Rock Creek Park, and it's led by CityCast CEO David Plotz. Our first November date has already filled up, so we're planning to open a new tour Sunday, December 7th to just members. The way to get an invite, if you're not a member, is to become one. You can join up at membership.citycast.fm. If you are a member and you want to come, you don't have to do anything, except you do have to wait for another email invite to hit your inbox. I've been to one of these before. It's awesome. David is such a pro at this. It's ranked #1 on Airbnb experiences in the DMV, so this is legit. This is not just me sucking up to the boss. You're going to learn so much, plus getting to hang out in Rock Creek Park. It's a beautiful place. Now, this is only available for free to CityCast DC neighbors, so if you aren't a neighbor and want to go on the tour, you can become one at membership.citycast.fm, and we'll have more information for you on this in our show notes.
Mark the date. This November 8th in D.C., join the National Center for Victims of Crime for its 40th anniversary gala. It's an evening of celebration and sparkle, with dinner and a silent auction filled with one-of-a-kind treasures. Raise a glass with friends, honor champions of hope, and help make sure life-changing support for crime survivors remains accessible. Join NCVC for an unforgettable night of connection and purpose, all while supporting services that make a real difference in your community. Go to victimsofcrime.org/40 today to grab your tickets and join us for this unforgettable night. That's victimsofcrime.org/40. Life can flip on a dime. 1 minute, everything's normal, and the next, someone else's mistake shakes your world upside down. And that's when you need a team you can count on. NACE Law Group has been standing up for DC families for decades, fighting for neighbors hurt by medical malpractice, wrongful deaths, and serious injuries. They don't just settle quickly or push papers. They dig in, fight hard, and make sure every client gets the justice they deserve. And here's something that I personally love about them. They are a longtime supporter of this very podcast. Because just like us, and just like you, they care about this community and the folks who call it home. So if you've been hurt or someone that you care about has, just pick up the phone. Call NACE Law Group. They'll stand with you, fight for your family, and make sure your rights are protected. And who knows, maybe you'll even see him at a CityCast live show. Visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com. That's WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com.
The other story that obsessed me this week, it's another process story, and it's about Waymo, self-driving cabs. They have them in like 5 cities. They're sort of on the way, and a bunch of others. And I actually just this morning, dropping my child off, I saw a Waymo car with a driver, but with that camera thing on the top, driving around, like getting the lay of the land. So this has been moving along in DC for some time. I'm sure other people have seen these too. And there's supposed to be a safety study conducted by the DC government. DC government doesn't have the study in hand, they say, because of the budget cuts that were imposed on them by Congress. And Charles Allen, who is the chairman of the committee that oversees transport in DC on the DC Council, he's not going to proceed on the legislation it would take until he's got this study in hand. So, it's a process thing. Until this week, when suddenly there was an editorial in the Washington Post. I looked this up. I think it's the only local editorial they've run in the last month, saying, how dare this strident left-wing guy gum things up. Driverless cars are the biggest safety innovation since the seatbelt. This kind of excuse-making and holding things up for ideological reasons is what stifles innovation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Charles Allen, the target of this, noted on his social media that the owner of the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos, is himself the owner of a self-driving car company.
Interesting.
That would benefit from...
It's weird. That wasn't in the editorial.
Not disclosed in the editorial.
Perplexing.
I kind of on the one hand, saying, hey, these strident left-wing ideologues are gumming up the works with bureaucratic hassle that will stifle innovation. That is, part of their editorial line right now. It's not like they swerved into a totally different direction to make that point. And similarly, arguing that, it's better if we have self-driving cars than human-driven cars because humans are much more fallible. I haven't seen the data, but that's not an illegitimate point. What was weird was the swerving, so to speak, into a subject matter they no longer editorialize about, which is local road use policy. In this one case, anyway, the disclosure would have made it bulletproof, but the non-disclosure sort of gives an extra frisson to this. So I don't know, there's kind of a bunch of things happening here at once. When, one is does the ability to stop stuff from happening make DC a better place or a worse place, which is an ongoing debate. And then there's the, what happens when you have media ownership that is engaged in many other pursuits that have nothing to do with media. And how do you trust, the editor, leaving aside the newsroom product, but how do you trust the editorial product to be on the level about its arguments?
Yeah, and I think also on top of that, who's asking for robot taxis in DC besides the Washington Post editorial board? I sure as hell don't want that.
I think Waymo's asking. I mean, they think they can make money.
Yeah, Waymo is asking, and the Washington Post editorial board is asking. But I mean, you heard of any groundswell of opinion from people in DC who want these things?
Well, no, but I mean, that doesn't look, if you're a company and you want to introduce something, if you want to start selling a certain kind of ice cream in DC, there's no groundswell because people don't know about it. And you should be allowed to sell it and then rise or fall based on if it's any good.
Yeah, but you still got to get a permit for your shop, and you still got to 100% health
exactly
regulations.
100%. Yes, and that's where the and we can argue about how stringent should the soft serve ice cream permitting be in the city, and some people might say should be more stringent in the name of public health, and some people might say it's less.
Some people like a twist of both.
Right, exactly. But when someone who owns an ice cream factory is also owns the newspaper, well, things become complicated,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys want self-driving taxis in DC?
I don't really. But I've also never been in one. And I also don't want to be one of those people that fights inevitability too much because inevitability comes for us all in some ways. But no, I don't. Do you?
I mean, like, I think that, I mean, a bunch of different things, but in the name of safety, yes, I think that if we had a world where all cars were self-driving, there would probably be less accidents than when humans are in the mix. I think getting from here to there, the like 20 or 25 years from here to there, will be disastrous. And they'll be disastrous because, one, there's going to be a lot of accidents because of the humans who are still involved, and because the machines haven't figured out, you know, how to deal with like children who run in the street and stuff. And then two, because millions and millions and millions of people have jobs driving things from one place to another place, and what is going to become of them. And then three, like, we're going to have to figure out costs because, you know, if you live in a world where everything is self-driving, it's going to be much cheaper to take one of those, and that's going to lead to a lot of gridlock and expense. And there is virtue in having public transit because it saves society pollution and money and hassle.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't we let Philadelphia try this first?
I would not.
We're done being the guinea pigs. They're already demolishing the East Wing. Let's see how that goes, and then give us.
Yeah, let's. Isn't it someone else's turn?
Yeah, you know, I don't want to sound not curious. I'm not sure. I haven't been in one, and I would be curious, but I'm not like frothing at the mouth to try.
I wouldn't get in one of those things if my life depended on it. That's.
I mean, look, they're
insanity.
in 5 cities. I think, you know, it sort of slowly, these things develop, and it seems like that is the direction things are headed. And it's probably more important to be able to regulate for safety than to sort of allow the people who own these things to call the shots 100% and abandon the field because you're going to try to shoot the moon by blocking the whole thing. I don't know that that's what anyone's doing. But I don't feel any reflexive antipathy to self-driving taxis. And if it was the other way around, you know, like if all taxis were self-driving and then there was a proposal to let humans drive them, we'd be like, who are these yahoos? We don't have to trust them. They could be drunk.
Is this a bad time to tell you we've been piloting a self-driving hosting scheme?
Oh no,
we could never. That's the point.
We need to do several safety studies before that happens.
So many safety studies. This is a little far afield, but one thing that kept coming up in the Washington Post editorial board was the writers saying they're in London. They're coming to London, damn it, and not DC. And one of my favorite stories of all time is about the test that the cabbies in London who drive the iconic black cabs have to take called the Knowledge. Obviously, there have been, you know, many hits there because of like Uber and Lyft and things. But London is a pretty insane place to drive. So I'm honestly more interested to see in the rollout of how that goes in London than I am here.
I think London is a wonderful place to try it out, and I hope that's where they keep it.
All right, this is the words that I've always wanted to say. Millie's isn't a big fight. Annie, will you explain to the people what I'm talking about?
I love this story. Andrew, I'm sure you know a lot about it too, because Jessica Sidman wrote an incredible piece about it in the Washingtonian. So Millie's in Upper Northwest. Have you all, Mike, you've been. Andrew, have you been?
No.
I have not either, but it's this like Nantucket-y vibe. The original location is in Nantucket, in Upper Northwest. Recently, there was very messy news, and we all know that I love mess, which is that Millie's accused the owners of Balos for ripping off basically everything about it with a new restaurant they're opening in Long Island called Angie's. And by everything about it, we're talking like the actual logo. Millie's is on a blue banner, like white serif font with stars. Angie's blue banner, white serif font with stars. The menu design looks the same. A lot of the menu items are very similar. One of the things that really got me, the merch. The original Millie's sells these T-shirts and hoodies that are dark blue with a white Jeep Wagoneer. Angie's and identical. The restaurant decor, identical. Kayla first had also written this up in our newsletter, and I was looking through and sort of like being like, okay, probably sour grapes. And I was like, this is absolutely wild. So anyway, but I do think that this has created such an extreme firestorm that I'm kind of interested to see what happens. I have a feeling that Angie's is gonna back off. I mean, like the owners are actually go to Millie's a lot. So I think even on a local level, it seems like this has created definite consternation. I went to the Angie's Instagram page, which has been made private, and the logo has changed. So we'll see what happens there.
Now, are they also going to require, is this new Long Island place also going to require their guests to wear knit belts and name their children Porter?
See, that is in the fine print. So yeah, I think so.
I mean, isn't that already happening? Yeah, it seems like a pretty similar clientele.
Yeah. By the way, Millie's is really good, but yeah, I think when you go for the sort of East Coast nautical vibe, you're kind of locking in a certain clientele. You know, it's not a South Beach nautical vibe. It's like weather-beaten, beloved, 100-year-old houses with wraparound porches kind of vibe.
Absolutely. And cases of like, copycat and things are always kind of bring up like, in any creative industry, whether like visual or food, like, of course, there's going to be some items that you're like, so-and-so can't own this, but there's also a way to do something differently. I think I saw you about to say something, Andrew.
No. I mean, what I was going to say would only build on your point, which is just that while there is a lot that you cannot copyright here, there is also the legal concept of trade dress, which if Millie's owners really wanted to pursue this, I think could be interesting, from a legal sicko point of view.
A legal sicko point of view.
It's a guy who likes to download court documents, yeah.
I don't think there are court documents in this case, maybe because there is not yet an Angie's in this case, which is just to say this was just these were their renderings, and this was they have an Instagram page, but they don't actually have a restaurant yet. It's supposed to open later this year. So they do have time to like preserve some dignity here. I don't know that that the legal hot water would have hit, but I'm not a lawyer. Maybe you can sue someone over their concept.
Well, this is the United States. You can sue anyone over anything, but whether you win or not is up in the air. I mean, when I first heard this, when Jessica first started talking about this story, I was like, oh, I mean, who cares? It's like a restaurant in another city. But I mean, when you look at the stuff in her article, not just that there are menu items that have the exact same name and the exact same composition. Like there's some chicken sandwich with pickles and honey mustard dressing that has the same name at both places, but it's just really striking how thoroughly and indisputably, I would say this Long Island restaurant is, let's say, inspired by the DC restaurant.
Yeah, if I could provide anything, it's that maybe we should do a CityCast and Washingtonian joint trip to the original Millie's to really like get do some research here. But yeah, I think regardless of court things, the court of public opinion, I would say, has for sure decided Millie's in the right, Angie's in the wrong in this case.
And it's not the ownership group, according to Jess, this is not their first time fielding accusations of copycatism in DC from a DC establishment.
It's true. Yeah, I saw that Jessica pointed out that there's a salad at Les Diplomats. It has a warm shrimp salad with a beurre blanc and avocado that is very similar to Bar Angie, which already exists. That is a warm shrimp salad with beurre blanc and avocado that's plated very similarly. Again, like, can be kind of hard, like, of course, there are only certain, ingredients and menu items and vibe, but it is definitely not the first time that this has happened with the owners of Balos, is my understanding.
All right. Well, you guys can go up to Nantucket. I am going to actually go to Angie's when it opens in Long Island because I want to see what I want to see what you do if your new instructions are do not copy Millie's.
Mike. Yeah.
Well, you've been to Millie's, so you're the ideal person to go check it out.
All right. I guess that is all we have to say about that. I want to give a big thank you to our newest CityCast DC neighbors: Heather L., David M., Gordon C., Antonio L., Kevin D., Peter B., David K., and Olger G. Thank you all for your support. Today, paid subscribers get a bonus 4th roundup chat about the government's shutdown status and how DC is coping. If you want to be sure You always get the full episode. Become a member. Head to membership.citycast.fm and sign up. It's only $10 a month. And members get ad-free listening, exclusive members events, and an extra events newsletter every week. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. Well, Andrew, I think you're doing a really cool thing in your newsletter.
Thank you. I try to be almost as good as the CityCast newsletter. So that's been my goal every day, and I hope that I'm hitting it.
All right, don't make it too much better, though.
I don't think I could. Just being realistic here.
Well, thanks for being here, man. And Annie, I'll see you soon, too.
Sounds great. Thank you.
And that's all for today here on CityCast DC. Our production team this week was Priyanka Tilve, Annie Reese, Julia Karen, Ash Durbin, Elizabeth Kama, and Selena Say Reynolds. Newsletter editors Kayla Cote-Stemmerman and Natalia Aldana wrote our fabulous newsletter Hey DC this week. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan, with additional music from Howard Harper and Rue Walker from Triple Scoop Music via Getty Images. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell everyone about it next time you're at Millie's or at a restaurant that looks like Millie's? We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.